The countdown is on, but you are not alone. This is Countdown to College, your weekly podcast from EducationQuest Foundation, here to help you plan, apply, and pay for college one step at a time. I'm your host, Gage, and today joining us on the podcast is Jacquie Butler, a senior college planning specialist here at EducationQuest. Hi, Jacquie. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So, throughout the season, Jacquie and I have talked about the basics of financial aid, how to prepare for the FAFSA, and now it's actually time to dig in because the 2026-27 FAFSA is officially open finally.
That's right.
So, we're going to walk you through how to complete the FAFSA with some extra tips and tricks just to make the process a little bit smoother. So, Jacquie, let's just jump right in. If anyone hasn't seen any of the previous episodes, can you just briefly explain what the FAFSA is and why it's important for students?
I sure can. So again, FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's a form that college-going students and their parents complete to be considered for federal, state, and college-based financial aid. Some colleges award financial aid on a first-come, first-served basis. So it's important for students to get their FAFSA submitted as soon as they possibly can. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be October 1st, but it's the earlier the better. And we do have a FAFSA checklist actually on our website at educationquest.org that will list or it provides details about each item needed to complete the 26-27 FAFSA form.
Yeah, the checklist is great because we talked about it in
It's
our prep podcast episode, but if you have some complicated scenarios, it can get quite a lengthy list of documents you need. So definitely
Mhm.
check that checklist.
Right.
So let's just dig into the actual FAFSA now, Jacquie. What can families expect from the form?
Okay, so they'll start by going to studentaid.gov and they will log in either using the student's or the parent's FSA ID. If you don't have an FSA ID created yet, you'll need to, again, be on studentaid.gov. You'll click in the upper right-hand corner where it says create account and get that set up first before you begin attempting to complete the FAFSA. The student and parents are actually called contributors on the FAFSA form. So each of them completes their section or side, if you will, which is linked through an invitation process. So, for instance, if the parent logs in and completes their side of the FAFSA first, an invitation will be sent to the student to complete their side. If the student starts the FAFSA first, when prompted, they'll enter parent's email address, and that will send the parent a 7-digit code to enter once they log into studentaid.gov and enter their FSA ID. That 7-digit code, kind of like an invitation, it will tie the two FAFSAs together. So it's slightly different depending upon whether you start on the parent side or whether you start on the student side first.
I know we get asked this question a lot. Is it better for the student or the parent to start the FAFSA? Does it matter?
Honestly, there's no right or wrong order. We at Education Quest recommend that you start on the parents' portion of the FAFSA first. And the reason we say that is because then once the student logs in with their FSA ID, they accept the invitation from parent and complete their side of the FAFSA. They will agree to the terms, they will sign and submit, and then they'll be able to see what's called a confirmation page. And on that confirmation page, it has some estimated results of, whether the student might be Pell Grant eligible or the maximum amount they might be offered in student loans. It's not their official financial aid offer. It's just a little bit of the estimated results.
Help us get started, Jacquie. Let's just assume that we have a student and they are dependent, so parent information is required on the FAFSA. What are the first set of questions that they'll actually see on the FAFSA form?
Okay, so if we start on the parent side, we log in using the parent's FSA ID. The initial questions will actually be focused on the student. So student's identity, demographic information. Then it will be followed by personal circumstance questions. Then eventually you will get to the parent's identity, which will actually be displayed. It's pre-populated because the parent entered their FSA ID. So they'll just want to make sure or confirm that that information is correct.
If something doesn't look correct, are they able to go back and edit that information?
They are. It depends upon what is wrong. Um, at this point in the game, their date of birth and their social security number should be correct.
Yeah.
If they need to change their last name, that would be something they're actually going to have to do before starting that FSA ID. So, like if they got remarried or they got divorced and went back to their maiden name or something like that, those are generally updated in the settings. So it's still at studentaid.gov. The parents logged in. There's a little, their name is on the upper right-hand corner, and they'll just kind of hover over that and a drop-down box will open up. And then in settings, they'll go ahead and make any necessary changes.
Great. And what other kind of questions can the parents expect to answer on the FAFSA form?
So the parents will indicate their marital status as of the day they're completing the FAFSA. They'll report any federal benefits that they received in the 2024 or 2025 calendar years by checking the boxes that pertain to their family situation. Then they'll confirm their family size and indicate the number of dependent students that will be attending college during the 26-27 academic year.
I know eventually they'll get to the tax information section, which is a pretty big portion of the FAFSA, kind of integral to the FAFSA, actually.
I was going to say big and important.
So how is tax information actually added to the FAFSA?
So when the student and parent approve consent, so they'll each, when they're on their side of the FAFSA, they will click the button that says approve consent. Their federal tax information will be securely transferred from the IRS onto the FAFSA. So Gage, the FAFSA is pretty intuitive. So it'll virtually walk you right through the process.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably weird to have like a favorite feature, but I feel like the IRS transfer is my favorite feature just because I'm so lazy, but it's so easy.
It has been a godsend for sure.
And so what about reporting assets? How is that handled on the FAFSA?
Okay, so if parents receive child support, they will report the total amount that they received for the last completed calendar year. So if parents, I don't want to kind of confuse them, but if parents are filling out the FAFSA December 31st or prior, the last completed calendar year would be 2024. If you're filling out the FAFSA come January 1st or after, that last completed calendar year would be 2025. So parents are reporting the total amount of child support that they received for the last completed calendar year, and that is for all children in the household. They'll also report the value of their cash checking and savings as of the day they're completing the FAFSA. They'll report any investment values. So, for example, stocks, CDs, mutual funds, money markets, etc. If parents own any real estate other than their primary home, they're going to list the value of that property minus any debt against it. So if you have a cabin at the lake, a timeshare, anything along those lines, parents are going to have to report that. So it would be the value, again, minus any debt against that property. If they have a 529, a Nest 529 plan, they'll have to report the value, but only for the student they're completing the FAFSA for. And that I will add that amount is actually reported as a parental asset, not under the student's portion. So parents can exclude or will exclude the value of their primary home and any retirement accounts. So things like 401k, IRA, both traditional and the Roth IRA, and annuities. Those things can be excluded from values.
And what about families who maybe own like a business, a ranch, or a farm? I know that kind of gets into the weeds, but do they need to report those assets at all?
Well, actually, there's been a really significant change from the past 2 years. So now, for a business, and that is for FAFSA purposes, a business is anything other than a farm or ranching operation. So if you own a business, you must own and control 50% or more of the business and have less than 100 employees and actively participate in the operation of the business. So all three of those things have to be true, and then you will not report the value of that business. If any one of those three does not pertain, you're going to have to list that net worth of the business. For a farm or ranching operation, so if parents live on the farm, they actively, it's their main source of income, and they actively participate in the operation of that farm or ranching. They do not have to report the value. So again, that's a change from the past 2 years. But if parents own farm ground or pasture ground and they rent it out to someone else, they will have to report the value per acre times how many acres are being rented out. Also, if they're a member of a family or family farm partnership or corporation pertaining to farm or ranch, and do not actively participate in running the farm, then they'll have to report their worth of that operation or their portion. So I like to give the example, if there are 4 siblings, and let's say 3 of them farm, they actively farm, that's their job, and you are the 4th sibling, and perhaps you are an accountant, that is your main job. You are not actively participating in running that farm, it's not your main source of income. So then what you would have to do is determine the value of the entire operation, which includes land, livestock, equipment, the farm ground, pasture ground, outbuildings, grains in storage and not yet harvested. And then you will determine your percentage or your portion of that operation. Then it will have to be reported.
I feel like this is a good place to plug our free FAFSA appointments, especially if you have some of these kind of more complicated scenarios that you just need a little
Mhm.
assistance with. Our college planning team would be more than happy to help out.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like the parents are done with their portion of the FAFSA. Is that correct?
Almost. Um, Very little left. So after the parent completes their portion of the FAFSA, they'll agree to the terms, they will sign the form, which invites the student then to complete their portion or their side of the FAFSA. So the parents would then log out of the FAFSA so the student can log in with their FSA ID.
Okay, so let's say the student logs in then. What can they expect from their half of the FAFSA?
Okay, so like you said, the student will log in with their FSA ID. They will accept the invitation that was sent by the parents. Just like the parent side, they would consent to have their IRS data pulled over electronically over onto the FAFSA form or securely. They'll report asset information, they'll answer some remaining questions, and then they will list the college or colleges that they are interested in attending. The student will review all of their answers on the FAFSA. Then they will agree to the terms, just like parents did. They will sign, and then there will be a button to submit the FAFSA form.
Jackie, if a student hasn't needed to file taxes yet, do they still have to transfer some data over from the IRS? Is there anything they need to transfer?
If a student didn't file, you still need to approve consent. And what happens is they go behind the scenes, they're looking to make sure, in fact, that student does not have a 2024 FAFSA on, or excuse me, tax return, federal
Yeah.
tax return on file with the government. So it checks for you. So you still have to approve that consent. A student doesn't have to have filed in order to complete a FAFSA form. So, it's only they'll have to file if they meet the federal filing requirements.
That's great. I just know some students sometimes haven't had a job yet before they, fill out
Right,
the FAFSA or
right.
anything. So,
Absolutely. Very common situation.
what happens after the FAFSA is filed? What can families expect next?
Okay, so in about 3 to 5 days after the FAFSA is submitted, the student is going to receive an email, and that will come from federal student aid. That email is confirming that the FAFSA was processed and or filed, and it was sent to the college or colleges that the student listed on the FAFSA form. It also provides a link to studentaid.gov, where we initially went to fill out the FAFSA. So the student can go back to studentaid.gov. They will log in with their FSA ID, and they can click on the FAFSA submission summary button. There, they can view, any information that was listed or provided on the FAFSA form. They'll be able to see what their SAI is, or student aid index, which is sometimes needed for scholarship purposes, et cetera. And the college uses that SAI to determine what type of aid a student is eligible to receive. And then they will, like I said, they'll review the answers on the FAFSA just to make sure that everything was entered correctly.
Yeah. And we'll explain all of that plus college financial aid offers during our November 4th podcast. So be sure to tune in then because you're not going to want to miss out on some of that information.
No, not at all.
All right, Jackie, just to wrap us up, can you just tell us what resources and tools are available to help families navigate the FAFSA?
The best thing I can say is to go to educationquest.org and search for FAFSA tools. So FAFSA tools, that will include, again, a copy of the 2627 FAFSA checklist. We do have a 2627 FAFSA demo in the works and should be posted on our site very soon. That has questions to all the FAFSAs and how to kind of navigate through the FAFSA process. EducationQuest also offers free services. So we will help students and families complete their FAFSA for free and get it submitted. If you scroll to the bottom of our website, educationquest.org, you will see down there it says schedule an appointment. You can just click on that and then schedule an appointment, which they're done either virtually or you can do those in person. So we have offices in Kearney, Lincoln, Omaha, and Scottsbluff. So you would just, if you want to do that in person, you just select the correct location, or you can certainly give us a call to schedule an appointment. Our phone numbers are on the bottom of that page as well. If you happen to be filling out the FAFSA yourself and you just have a couple questions, give us a holler. We can always answer those. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, shameless plug, but our resources are all free and they're great resources. So,
That's right.
well, that
Yeah,
was all of my questions. Thank you again, Jackie, for joining us.
absolutely. It's my pleasure.
And to our audience, like Jackie mentioned, if you ever need help with anything college related, even if it's not FAFSA, I know it's FAFSA season
Mhm,
right now,
mhm.
but
Right.
we help out with all things college planning. So you can contact an Education Quest office for
Mhm,
that. Um, and like Jackie said, you can schedule an appointment on our website. There's actually like a specific slot you can pick to for the 26, 27 FAFSA,
mhm.
or just, like I said, a general college planning one. We're happy to help. While you
Cool.
are there, you can also sign up for the Countdown to College weekly email that is filled with college tips and tricks. That's again at the bottom of our homepage on educationquest.org. And finally, just help us get this message out to as many students and families as possible by subscribing to this podcast on your favorite platform and hitting the like button on this episode. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you next week.